Okay, so now we're on solving quadratics. There are many different ways to solve a quadratic. We've learned a lot of them. One of the ways is to graph in your calculator, in your y equals screen. You can look it to where it crosses your x-axis, or you can even put your y2 equal to 0, and then find the intersect. So second trace, 5, enter, 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 move it left and right to find both of the answers. Another way we've learned to solve is to factor. The way we factor is by using x's and mistakes. Once you've found the factors, you take those factors, you set them equal to 0, and you solve. Always, we are solving quadratics, therefore our goal is to have x equals a number, always. The last way that we have figured out how to solve quadratics is our end-all catch-all, and that is by using the quadratic formula. That's when we sing to ourselves, x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. But the cool thing about the quadratic formula is it is actually on our cheat sheet. So that's something we don't have to necessarily remember, but it's a good thing that we kind of have it in place because it's something we've practiced a lot on, and we might as well just use it. Okay? Sorry, my pen is obviously messing up like always. It's fine. Negative b plus or minus. I don't know what's going on. Plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So let's see here. I can get this written. B squared minus 4ac all over 2a. This again is on our cheat sheet. Now there is a special case when our b x is missing. We can take the square of both sides. And y'all will remember that here in a second. We'll do an example like it. But these are kind of the 4 ways we've learned. 1 to graph, 2 to factor, 3 to use the quadratic formula, and then also if there's a special case, we can kind of skip a few steps and cut corners. But ultimately, when you solve by graphing, your whole goal is to find the x-intercepts. The x-intercepts are where it crosses the x-axis. So I'm just going to go put stars on those. Both of these quadratics have 2 solutions, 2 roots, 2 zeros. Okay? So make sure that you have 4 stars total, 2 per quadratic. Then we're going to talk about factoring. These are actually already in factored form, and the reason we know this is because there's 2 sets of parentheses. So they already did the hard work for us. They did the x's and mistakes. Now it's our job to use the zero product property to find our solutions. And this property pretty much states we can take our factors, set them equal to 0, and solve to find solutions. So you're going to say 2x equals 0, and then you're going to say x minus 3 equals 0. So we're taking those products, those things that are in parentheses, and we're setting them equal to 0. Now, our job is to solve, get the solution. So we're going to draw lines from our equal signs. And since our 2 is stuck next to our x, we're going to divide each side by 2. And we're going to get x equals 0. And that's still one of our solutions. On this next equation, we've got x minus 3. So we're going to add 3 to both sides. And we're going to get x equals positive 3. So our 2 zeros here would be 0, 3. We would write that in brackets because those are our 2 possible solutions. If we wanted to write them as ordered pairs, we would have to say 0, 0, and 0 or 3, 0. So any of these options will work. You can say x equals 0, x equals 3. You can put them in brackets, or you can write them as ordered pairs. Any of those are great to be able to recognize what our solutions are. This next problem, to the right side of the page, we've got 2x minus 5 and x plus 4. We can use the zero product property yet again. We're going to take each fraction, or each factor, I apologize. We're going to set them equal to 0. And then we're going to solve. Draw that line from that equal sign. Our whole goal is to get x by itself. So on this first equation, we're going to add 5 to both sides. And we're going to get 2x equals 5. Then our 2 is stuck next to our x, so we're going to divide each side by 2. And we're going to get x equals 5 halves. Some of you in your calculator probably got 2.5. I know that all of you are using your calculator like you're supposed to since it's your best friend. And if you got 2.5, it's not hard to convert it back to a fraction. You just press math, enter, enter. Okay, it's going to convert it back to a fraction for you. This is probably going to be more what you see on the STAR test, so I kind of want you to be used to that. But as long as you know how to convert a decimal to a fraction, I'm good with that as well. On this other equation, we're going to subtract 4 from both sides to get x by itself. We're going to get x equals negative 4. There's nothing to simplify there. So these two will work. Or you can say negative 4 comma 5 halves, least to greatest in brackets. Or you can say negative 4 comma 0 and 5 halves comma 0. All of these will work. Now again, we've talked about we can solve by graphing, factoring, quadratic formula, or special cases. Here they asked us to solve by factoring, but I will tell y'all, since my equation is already equal to 0, I can easily go to my y equals screen. I don't know where that is. Hold on, let me get out of tablet mode. Okay, I could easily go in my calculator, because I know that's what all of you are doing right now. We're opening up our calculator. And we're going to go to that y equals screen. We're going to type in these equations that they gave us. Even though they're in factored form, they're already equations. So we're going to go to y equals. We're going to clear out what we have in there. We're going to type in, I believe it's 2x, parentheses, x minus 3. I'm going to type it in exactly how it looks in the original equation. And when I graph it, guys, if you notice, it's going to cross my x-axis at 0 and positive 3. So you can find your answers multiple different ways. If I were to go to the next equation and type it in, I've got parentheses 2x minus 5. Oops. 2x minus 5. Then open another parentheses, and I've got x plus 4. I'm going to graph it. And I'm going to notice it does touch my graph in 2 different places, so I should have 2 answers. This one looks like it's at negative 4 perfectly. This one looks like it's right about in the middle between 2 and 3, 2.5. But if I can't find that exactly, I can always go to my y equals screen, and as my second equation, I can put in a 0. I can go back to my graph, and I can press second, trace, 5, enter, enter, enter. And looky there, it tells me my intersection is 2.5 and 0. That's exactly what I needed. If I wanted to find the other one, I'd go back to second trace 5. I would move my little flashing guy all the way to the left side of my graph. And I would just keep going. I would keep going until I can see him again. Oops. I don't know where he went. Let's find him. I think my calculator app is lagging, so we'll get there. There he is. So there he is. We're going to press enter, enter, enter again. And it's going to guess my other intersection is negative 4, 0. So both of these ways will work. Whatever you're most comfortable with on the STAR test, that's what I want you to do. The last one is solving by quadratic formula. this is your end-all catch-all, okay? This is like the basket that covers everything, or the umbrella that covers every situation. The only problem is we have to make sure our quadratic formula is equal to 0. And in order to use the quadratic formula, we've got to subtract 3 from both sides. And we've got to recognize that we now have 5x squared plus 2x minus 3, because they are not like terms, equals 0. Once you're equal to 0, you can identify your A, B, and C. If you need to look on your cheat sheet, you'll remember, and your cheat sheet will actually tell you, I don't know why it keeps doing that. Your cheat sheet will tell you your A comes before your x squared. So your A is 5. Your B comes before your x, so it's 2. And your C comes all by itself, and that is just going to be -3. So then you're going to use your quadratic formula. That's also on your cheat sheet. X is equal to -b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And you're just going to plug in what you have for a, b, and c. So we're going to have x is equal to the opposite of b, so -2, plus or minus the square root of 2 squared minus 4 parentheses 5 parentheses -3 all over 2 times 5. The only thing you have to remember is when you go to your calculator to type this in, your numerator has to have parentheses and your denominator has to have parentheses. So we're going to go to our calculator really quickly. We're going to go to our normal screen, clear out whatever we see. We're going to say parentheses, -2 plus the square root. 2 squared is going to be in parentheses. Minus 4, parentheses 5, parentheses -3. You're going to use your right arrow and close out your numerator. Then we're going to divide by 2 times 5. And our first answer is going to be 0.6. I'm going to press math enter to give me a fraction of 3/5. So when I go back to my notes, I'm going to say my first x is 3/5. Okay, then I'm going to go into my calculator again. I'm going to press second enter. I'm going to notice it doesn't pull up my quadratic formula, so I'm going to press second enter again. And then it does pull it up. I'm going to use my left arrow to go all the way to that plus sign, and I'm going to change it to a minus. And my second answer, my second solution for this problem is going to be x equals -1. So both of these will work, and we're good to go. Last problem. Right here, what I want us to recognize right away is this is one of those special cases we can use. Okay? This is special. And the reason it's special is because we are missing that bx. That x middle term is missing. We've got an x squared, we've got constants, but we have no x by itself. So since my bx is missing, my goal is to get x squared alone. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. I'm going to get 8x squared equals 72. My x squared is close to being alone, but it's not alone yet. So I have to divide each side by 8. And I'm going to get x squared equals 9. Now that I have my x squared all by itself, I can take the square root to get those to cross out. But whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. And when I take the square root of something, it gives me 2 possible answers, which happens to be positive and -3.